Hello, all you freedom-loving people, and welcome to another episode of Front Page. I'm your host, Scott Cameron Goulet. President Trump skipped the first Republican debate in favor of sitting down with Tucker Carlson for a candid talk on a wide range of topics, while the other Republican contenders gathered in Milwaukee. Special counsel Jack Smith has ended the out-of-state grand jury that was investigating the classified documents case in Florida after Judge Aileen Cannon blasted him for it. Elon Musk has vowed to sue organizations that were funded by George Soros for falsely claiming that hate incidents were on the rise in order to restrict freedom of expression. Reportedly, the Wagner Group leader Yevgeny Prigozhin died in a plane that crashed northwest of Moscow on Wednesday evening. Okay, let's get into it. Last night was the first Republican primary debate. It was hosted by Fox News. As we knew in advance, President Trump decided to skip the debate. The reason for that is because the president has a commanding lead in the polls in terms of support. Another reason that he didn't attend is because he doesn't trust Fox News. Instead, President Trump teamed up with Tucker Carlson to challenge Fox News. Parallel to the Republican debate, Tucker's interview with President Trump aired on the X platform. President Trump will always be able to win with a surprise move. That's one of the reasons why his supporters love him so much and his enemies hate him. Tucker asked President Trump a series of pointed and at sometimes interesting questions. Tucker asked President Trump about the prospect of a civil war, whether his opponents would try to assassinate President Trump, among other things. Here are a few notable topics from the interview. Does President Trump think that Jeffrey Epstein killed himself? Jeffrey Epstein was a convicted sex offender who was facing child sex trafficking charges. He died in his jail cell under very suspicious circumstances. Authorities ruled it a suicide. But many Americans, including Tucker, believe that he was murdered. Tucker Carlson asked President Trump if he believes that Jeffrey Epstein killed himself.
Do you think it's possible that Epstein was killed?
Oh, sure, it's possible. I mean, I don't really believe. I think he probably committed suicide. He had a life with, beautiful homes and beautiful everything, and he all of a sudden he's incarcerated and not doing very well. I would say that he did, but there are those people. There are many people. I think you're one of them, right? But a lot of people think that he was killed. He knew a lot on a lot of people.
He was killed.
You think so?
I think the closer you look, I'm not a conspiracy person at all. I believe everything I hear. But yeah, the closer you look into it, I mean, the Attorney General of the United States, your Attorney General clearly lied about the Epstein death.
Yeah,
and
he was.
Why?
He was certainly. It wasn't well done. They had no cameras. They had no anything. Everybody was sleeping, and a case could be made. Look, I'm not going to get involved in it, but I can tell you, a case could be made either way. But it certainly wasn't the most well-run place.
Tucker Carlson noted the gradual escalation of attacks on President Trump by the far left ever since President Trump entered politics. He noted the protests, the impeachments, and now the indictments. So will it escalate to an assassination attempt next? But President Trump didn't respond directly. He said that there are very good people among Democratic politicians and voters. He doesn't just represent Republican voters and conservatives, he represents Democratic voters as well. He represents the American people.
Are you worried that they're going to try and kill you? Why wouldn't they try and kill you, honestly?
They're savage animals. They are people that are sick, really sick. You have great people in the Democrat Party. You have great people that are Democrats. Most of the people in our country are fantastic, and I'm representing everybody. I'm not just Republicans or conservatives. I represent everybody. I'm the president of everybody. But I've seen what they do. I've seen the lengths that they go to when they make up the Russia, when that's exposed. And
so do those people who are on the far left hate America?
They go down, and Barr should have gone after them, and other people should have gone after. And they did very late, because the Durham report came out. It was fairly good. It could have been a lot tougher, I guess, but it was fairly good. But it explained how corrupt it was. I'll tell you who did a great job was the Inspector General Horowitz. He did a phenomenal report. You didn't have to go to Durham. He did it on Comey and on, I guess, McCabe and some others, and it was a vicious, it was basically a true report, how bad they are. But these people are sick people. These are people that I think they hate our country. You want to know the truth. When you see open borders, when you see these policies that they have, and so many other things. It's so sad to see. You know, we have a country that's very fragile right now.
However, the American people are very smart. They can read these plots.
Your poll numbers go up. When they raided Mar-a-Lago in August of last year, your numbers went up. They can indict you 20 times, and you're not gonna lose the Republican primary because of that.
Well, so it makes it look even more ridiculous. I mean, the 4 indictments, and maybe there'll be more. I don't know. These people are crazy.
But they're counterproductive. So if you chart it out, it's an escalation, is what I'm saying. Yeah. So what's next? After, try to put you in prison for the rest of your life, that's not working. So, don't they have to kill you now?
I think the people of our country don't get enough credit for how smart they are. And I'm not sure I would have said this 10 years ago, but they get it. They really get it. When somebody gets indicted, your poll numbers go down. When somebody gets indicted, you announce, ladies and gentlemen, I'll be leaving to spend time with my family and to fight for the rest of my life on this stuff. But you're out of politics. I got indicted 4 times. All trivia, nonsense.
Tucker Carlson wondered how President Trump can stay so cheerful in the face of so many indictments. President Trump says that it's the people's support for him that gives him strength.
How do you do that? How do you get indicted, every week and stay cheerful?
I think it's a lot easier because I'm so high in the polls, because it means the people get it.
While President Trump did not agree with Mike Pence's handling on January 6th, he didn't say anything too bad about him either. At the beginning of the interview, when Tucker Carlson asked who President Trump meant when he said there are people on stage at the debate tonight who shouldn't be running for president, President Trump did not say that Pence is one of those people.
I was very disappointed in him. I didn't want to do what Thomas Jefferson did. Thomas Jefferson, it was Georgia, and it was hear ye, hear ye, the great state of Georgia is not capable or allowed to tabulate their votes. And Thomas Jefferson, who was the vice president, said, is Georgia sure that they cannot tabulate their votes? Georgia is sure. He didn't send them back and have them redo it. He said, we will keep the votes of the great state of Georgia for Thomas Jefferson and his president. I didn't ask him for that. Could have done that too, but I didn't. I thought that would be turmoil. I asked him to send him back to his legislature, to the legislatures, in Wisconsin, let's say.
But why didn't he? I mean, you'd worked together for 4 years. You're the president. He's VP. You say you're aligned on everything.
I think he got very bad advice. I really do.
And in fact, even the Democrats know that Mike Pence had the power to reject the votes.
Now, let me tell you what happened. I sat there with a few people. I think his lawyer was in the room too. His lawyer was very much against it. There were other lawyers that felt you could do it. It was one of those things. I think you could have done it. I think you can always do something if you see fraud or if you see problems. But it's very interesting. So after the election was over, the rhinos got together with the Democrats and they redid the election, so you couldn't do it anymore. So then I called the people. I said, so in other words, you're saying I was right. You could do it. Yes, you could do it. In other words, they took the Voting Act and they redid it so the vice president no longer has the power to do what I said he could do. So when that happened, I said, wow. And you'd look some of these Democrats in the eye and they'd say, he has absolutely no right to do it. And immediately after the election, they met rhinos, could name them all, and Democrats, and they approved legislation that takes away the right of the vice president to do it. So I said, so you're saying I was right. The vice president did have the right to do it. And they said, yes, he did.
So if you're saying they stole it from you last time, why wouldn't they do the same this time?
Oh, well, they'll try. They're going to be trying.
Tucker Carlson also asked President Trump if he thinks that we're headed for a civil war. However, President Trump doesn't think that conflict is imminent. He replied that there's a great deal of passion and a great deal of love.
There's tremendous passion and there's tremendous love. January 6th was a very interesting day because they don't report it properly. I believe it was the largest crowd I've ever spoken before. And some of the crowds I've spoken before. And like July 4th on the Mall, I think they had 1 million people there. But I think that the biggest crowd I've ever spoken before was on January 6th, and people that were in that crowd, a very, very small group of people, and we said patriotically and peacefully and patriotically, right? Nobody ever says that. Go peacefully and patriotically. But people that were in that crowd that day, very small group of people, went down there, and then there are a lot of scenarios that we can talk about. But people in that crowd said it was the most beautiful day they've ever experienced. There was love in that crowd. There was love and unity. I have never seen such spirit and such passion and such love. And I've also never seen simultaneously and from the same people such hatred of what they've done to our country.
We started off by mentioning that President Trump is always creative in solving tough issues. Here's another example of what he mentioned in the interview.
If you go to North Korea, you take a look at what happened. You know, the Olympics was dead. South Korea spent billions on the Olympics. Nobody was going to go. They didn't want to get blown up. They called me and they said, "We are going to let the Olympics proceed." This is North Korea. I said, "You should go into the Olympics. Put your athletes in." It wasn't like, they were big on athletes because,
Famine.
But they went in and they actually participated. And within about 2 days, the entire thing was sold out. And if it wasn't me, that would have never happened.
Special counsel Jack Smith revealed on Tuesday that the D.C. grand jury that was hearing evidence in the classified documents case to be heard in Florida has ended. Smith used a grand jury and a radical Marxist Obama-appointed D.C. judge Burl Howell in the classified document case before filing charges in Florida. However, earlier this month, Judge Aileen Cannon blasted Smith for operating a secret out-of-district grand jury. Judge Cannon demanded Smith to explain the legal propriety of using an out-of-district grand jury proceeding to continue to investigate President Trump and his associates. This is because it's against DOJ rules for prosecutors to present a case outside the district where the crime occurred. So Judge Cannon ruled that, among other topics as raised in the motion, the response shall address the legal propriety of using an out-of-district grand jury proceeding to continue to investigate and or seek post-indictment hearings in matters pertinent to the instant indictment matter in this district. Therefore, within 2 weeks, Smith ended his D.C. grand jury investigation of the classified documents case. Elon Musk said that Platform X would sue organizations that are funded by George Soros. This is because these organizations allegedly pushed for free speech crackdowns. Musk said in a post on X on August 23rd that he agreed with investigative journalist Michael Shellenberger. Musk claimed that George Soros-funded NGOs have been falsely claiming that hate incidents are on the rise in order to restrict freedom of expression. In his recent post, Shellenberger stated, "Politicians and George Soros-funded NGOs say hate incidents are rising, but they're not. The data show the opposite. Higher than ever and rising levels of tolerance of minorities. The reason they're spreading hate misinformation is to justify a draconian crackdown on free speech." So Musk reacted to the post by signaling his agreement and pledging to sue. Musk wrote, "Exactly. X will be filing legal action to stop this. Can't wait for discovery to start." Musk's threat of legal action comes after X filed a lawsuit against the Center for Countering Digital Hate. The previous lawsuit alleged that the nonprofit was engaged in a scare campaign to drive away advertisers from the platform X by making false and misleading claims about the amount of content on X that was supposedly promoting hate. In support of Musk's new claim, Shellenberger shared an article by Irish journalist Ben Scalin. Scalin wrote that NGOs that are backed by open society foundations, which are founded by George Soros, are pushing a censorship agenda in Ireland and Scotland. That includes police searches of homes and personal devices like homes. However, Scalin's article did not specify which Soros-funded NGOs are allegedly pushing a censorship agenda. Shellenberger and Musk did not specify either. Scalen's article explained that Irish leaders, including Justice Minister Helen McConaughey, have asserted that hate-based offences are rising in Ireland. They indicated there was a 29% increase in hate crimes in 2022 compared to the previous year. However, Scalen argued that an increase in reported hate offences doesn't necessarily mean an actual increase in hate crimes. Partly, this is because of the low threshold for classifying something as a hate crime, which requires no evidence other than someone's claim. Scalen wrote that the police and government in Ireland have been urging people to report hate incidents for years. The police have set a goal to increase the number of reported hate crimes, which may have contributed to the reported increase in hate-based offenses. Scalen also highlighted research indicating that people today are more likely to label something as harmful or hateful than in the past. In addition, Scalen suggested that the concept of what constitutes a hate crime has undergone a broader cultural shift. Scalen argued that no good evidence supports the claim that hate crimes have increased in Ireland, particularly against migrants. He asserted that the heightened focus on hate speech might serve as a pretext for the Irish government's push to pass strict hate speech laws. These laws would criminalize possessing hateful material and imposing penalties for refusal to provide device passwords to authorities. The proposed law is called the Criminal Justice Bill 2022. This law has been criticized for potentially restricting free speech and for reversing the burden of proof. By doing so, the accused is responsible for proving their innocence. The Irish Prime Minister and Justice Minister Helen McConaughey spoke out about the measure. McConaughey noted in a speech in mid-June, it's hard to believe that despite increasing incidents of hate crime and general support from the public to criminalize such acts, Ireland doesn't yet have hate speech laws in place and will be one of the last countries in Europe to enact such legislation. While Ireland has had legislation in place against hate speech for nearly 35 years, McConaughey argued that it has been ineffective, limited, and largely discredited. During the recent debate on the bill in the Irish Senate in June, Independent Senator Ronan Mullen questioned whether the law would go too far. This was, for instance, punishing people for debating gender identity. Mullen asked, will mocking memes be tolerated? Mullen added, will carrying a placard stating men cannot breastfeed warrant a hate speech investigation or up to 5 years imprisonment, a lifelong label as a criminal hater, and all of the stigma and life limitations that go with that? Nobody actually knows. Ireland's Department of Justice replied that the bar for prosecution under the proposed law would be very high, and that criminal incitement to hatred will not be an area that anybody will stray into by accident. Reportedly, the Wagner Group leader Yevgeny Prigozhin died in a plane that crashed northwest of Moscow on Wednesday evening. Russian state media only confirmed that Prigozhin was listed as a passenger and that there were no survivors. There were 10 passengers and 3 crew members on board. The Russian Emergency Situations Ministry said in a statement that the plane was traveling from Moscow to St. Petersburg. There is footage that shows an unidentified plane flying northwest of Moscow, which then disappeared from the screen. Unconfirmed media reports suggest that the business jet belonged to Prigozhin, but it was not immediately clear if he actually boarded the flight. Flight tracking data indicated that a private jet linked to Wagner that was previously used by Prigozhin departed Moscow on Wednesday evening. However, the signal was lost in a remote area without nearby airfields that are suitable for a safe landing. A Telegram channel, which is called Gray Zone, that some people say is linked to Wagner, claimed that the plane was shot down by Russian air defense systems from the Russian Defense Ministry. The channel stated that before the plane crash, local residents listened to 2 bursts of characteristic air defense. And this was confirmed by contrails in the sky in one of the videos, as well as the words of direct eyewitnesses. In late June, Prigozhin reportedly led a mutiny in Russia against Russian top military commanders. Later, the Belarusian president, Alexander Lukashenko, said that he talked with Prigozhin about ending the coup. Eventually, Lukashenko brokered a deal between Prigozhin and the Kremlin, so Prigozhin agreed to stop in exchange for his amnesty. Therefore, Prigozhin returned to Moscow in order to meet with Putin 5 days after the deal. According to the Kremlin, Prigozhin recently said that the Wagner Group would no longer fight in Ukraine. However, in comments published in late July, Prigozhin said that Wagner was ready to further increase its presence in Africa. Prigozhin also made comments about the recent coup in Niger, in which President Mohamed Bazoum was arrested by the country's presidential guard. He reportedly said in a Telegram audio recording last month that what happened in Niger has been brewing for years. The former colonizers are trying to keep the people of African countries in check. In order to keep them in check, the former colonizers are filling these countries with terrorists and various bandit formations, thus creating a colossal security crisis. Prigozhin was also photographed at a Russian Africa summit in St. Petersburg. Earlier this week, Prigozhin posted a video clip in which he was seen standing in a desert area in camouflage with a rifle in hand. People in the background of the clip were also armed. It isn't clear where he was, but Prigozhin's comments and several posts in the pro-Wagner channels suggested that the clip was filmed in Africa. If that's the case, Prigozhin may still be in Africa.
Температура плюс 50.
We are working. The temperature is 122 degrees, everything as we like. Wagner PMC conducts reconnaissance and search actions, makes Russia even greater on all continents, and Africa more free.
And that's a wrap for this episode. Thank you so much for your support of Front Page. Please remember that every like, comment, and share helps more people to see the truth. If you haven't already, please subscribe. And if you have already subscribed, we thank you, but please double check to make sure that you are still subscribed, because some of our audience have reported that they're somehow unsubscribed without their knowledge. Okay, this is our show for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you like what you heard today, please don't forget to like this video and share it with your friends and family, because everybody deserves to know the truth. Again, thank you for watching Front Page, and we will see you next time.